Say hi to James. Made me an entrepreneur. Teaching me day after day after day till it all was a blur. Now he on tour, he can drop in your city tonight. Navin and Zin coming in for the fight. Making that powerful statement, saying that you meant for greatness. Better be ready for absolute.
Good morning, Absolute Nation. I got to tell you, it is no greater honor than to be able to spend time with you to start off the day. We've had an election, we've had the world change, we've had so many things that happen on the outside. But remember, the real work is always on the inside. It's who we become and whose we become. Whose tribe, where we are, who we are around. Remember, you become the collection of the five friends you surround yourself with. If you want to be average, surround yourself with average people. But if you ever want to be great, you want to do something great, you have to put yourself around great people. That absolute motivation, my only goal, our only goal, is to provide you with information and inspiration that moves you. When Nav and Azim came together to build this platform, the idea was let's provide people with hope and aspiration, inspiration that lasts beyond the moment. Because you can't learn to ride bikes inside of seminars. You got to get out in the street, live life, and then be impacted by it. Everything that we do is with the idea of growth, development, and enhancement of your life. That's why I took the time this morning to bring on someone whose life has included struggle and overcoming and becoming. So this morning, let me introduce Miss Petite herself from the state of Utah. Welcome as my guest, Miss Shaylee Ray.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I am glad that you're here. One of the things that I see you have a tiara on your head is you've been crowned. That means you achieved something. Most of us don't realize that in order to become something, you have to go through something. And so you didn't just get up this morning and put that on your head. You had to earn this, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the process of what it means to hold the title that you have.
So, with every pageant title, usually you have to have a social impact for your community and something that you're willing to work on. And so, I started with my impact of just bringing invisible disabilities awareness and bringing that to my community, teaching, educating people in the community so that people who have invisible disabilities can have a better education or work life or whatever it may be in life that other people just know about it.
When you say invisible disabilities, what comes to mind is that sometime on the outside, it can look like someone has no issues, no problems physically. And because of that, you have a perception of them because of what you can't see. But beneath the layer of clothing or what they can't see, someone has something to overcome. Is that what you mean by invisible disability?
Yes, I think that's a great definition. I think a lot of people don't realize what people go through with or without an invisible disability on a day-to-day basis. Like we're all masking, and so I just want to bring awareness to it's okay to share on your social media like the struggles that you're going through, whether it be health related or not. That we don't just have to sit here and put on this mask and facade pretty much that my life's perfect, because not everybody's life is perfect. I don't think anybody's life is
Yeah,
perfect.
no, absolutely. One of the things that we have when we come up with this idea, be perfect, put on image, is that people end up living what's called, what do you call it? The imposter syndrome. It's the
Yeah.
idea that I'm pretending to be somebody I can't be, don't want to be, but I'm stuck here. And if you can ever find the ability to be authentic, pure, genuine for yourself, you do it for others as well. Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you grow up?
I was raised with two beautiful, loving parents. They are still married. They are going on 27 years. And we were middle class. I had every opportunity that I could have been able to have growing up. But I did suffer from a rare chronic intestinal disorder, where my intestine muscles didn't ever work. And there was nothing to really cure that either. So I had a lot of hospitalizations. I was, couldn't eat. I had a lot of tubes in me to try and feed me or drain my intestines and stomach, lots of surgeries, lots of struggles. But I love that my parents never let my illness define me, and they,
Mm.
were very adamant that I was going to be a normal child. I was going to have a normal childhood despite what the doctors told me, of like trying to be homeschooled, or like, she's never going to graduate from high school. And my parents were like, nope, that's
Wow.
so I really do give a lot of credit to my parents for, giving me this opportunity and seeing the true potential that I had.
So you're telling me that you went through the people saying what you would never do. Did that become an inspiration for you to prove them wrong? Or was it like your mom's like, hey, my child will graduate. My child will have a normal life. My kid will not be defined by your borders. Is that how it was? Or
I think I did have that mentality of like, no, I want to prove you wrong. Like, of course, like as a child being told you can't do something, you're like, oh, wait, no, I can. But I feel like there were moments, during my healthcare journey where I did want to give up. I really, truly did. Like, I wanted just to be like, okay, the illness wins. You got me, right? Like, I had a really hard time my junior year where I actually received my ostomy surgery, and I wanted to quit school. I actually didn't go for half the year. And so it wasn't just because of my motivation, but I think my mom and my dad, both my parents, like, cheering me on and like telling me like, you can do it, or, not letting me give into my own insecurities and things like that, that really changed everything. Like, it was a team effort, really.
let me ask you something. Did you find like when did you find like, hey, I decided the to get inside of beauty pageants? When did that get started?
So a couple of years ago, I was very adamant that I wanted to graduate debt free with my bachelor's degree, and I did. I
Wait,
actually,
wait, I got to interrupt that for a minute.
yeah,
They went from telling you you wouldn't be able to graduate high school to you skipped over and said I was getting my bachelor's. All
yeah.
right, way to go. Okay. Then
Graduated high school, went to college. I actually am graduating in 4 weeks with my master's degree. I finished a
way
year
to go.
early, so yeah. But I was, very adamant that I didn't want any debt because I had all this medical debt. I was like, you know what? If I can scholarship and work and pay for my school, I would be, really happy about that. So that was my goal. And I learned, at the time that in my local city that they were running a pageant, and the prize was scholarship money. And I was like, well, I could get on stage and I could, see if I can get this scholarship money. I mean, like, why not? I wrote so many essays. I've done, so many cover letters, like all these things, like, let's change it up a little bit. So I was like, okay. So I went and I competed. I didn't place. I didn't realize how intense pageantry was.
Wait a
There was
minute. Wait, it's intense. So it's not just, hey, I'm pretty, I look good. How is this? No?
no, not at
Oh, okay.
there are like certain walks to everything. There like what you wear matters. Just there are so many different factors that I didn't realize at the time that mattered. And there were girls that had been competing for 8 years that I was competing against that hadn't even won a local title. And so I was like, oh wow, what did I get myself into? Like, I was like, oh my gosh. But I did all the work for this one specific local pageant, and they had other ones going on throughout the year. And I was like, well, I did the work. I have, my talent. I have my outfits, like my evening gown, my onstage question. I've put in all this work. Why not just compete again and keep going for the year and just see what happens? I was like,
That was it.
I was
I'm just gonna put my I'm gonna just put my best foot forward.
yeah,
Whatever happens, happens, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Let me ask you something. So I don't want to skip the process. When you decided to put your name in the ring and said, let me see what would happen against others, the idea that you had never done it before, what kept you from just bowing out on the fact that if they haven't done it in 8 years and they got a lifetime of experience, what gives me the right to step in there? What gave you the confidence or the courage to step in and attempt something?
I actually really loved the girls I competed with. I was surrounded by beautiful women who had similar goals that I did. You know, they were all making differences in their community with their social impact. And it was amazing just to see what one person could be doing in their community. And then I'm like, competing
Mm.
against 20 girls, and they're all doing stuff in their community that is different than my social impact statement. They're all going to school to get an education. And the thing I loved most is like most of us competing could not be married, and so most of us weren't dating, and it was just like a girls group, and we were supporting each other and loving each other, and it didn't matter who won at the end of the day. It just
Wow.
mattered that we all loved and supported each other and were making differences in our community.
A winner's mindset doesn't look to compete against the people beside them. They're competing with what's within and overcoming the insecurities, thought processes, and then realizing that if someone else is doing great in something, it doesn't diminish me. It just allows me to be able to say, if I'm standing beside greatness, then greatness rubs off on me. I understand that community, being around them, inspired you. And I loved how you said social impact, because for many years, there was always this idea, this innate crazy thought that every time they would ask someone, uh, like, what would you like to say when they had the mic? And they would lean in and be like, world peace. And that was such a stereotype, but I realized you actually are bringing the world to peace, one piece at a time, one angle at a time, one issue at a time, by bringing together something that you want to make a social impact about. When you went to pick invisible disabilities, instead of just pinpointing and saying, I had this challenge that had me this way as a kid, you made it so that it was more universal. What was the switch that made you go with the more universal invisible disabilities, rather than just the personal issue that was yours?
I feel like a lot of people can relate to what I'm going through. Whether or not it's the same illness. I feel like, mine is very rare. And so I didn't want to specifically just choose my illness where like I probably wouldn't be able to connect with a ton of people, because in my 26 years of living, I know maybe a handful of people who have my same illness. So I wanted something that was wider, that could, include more people. I'm sure a lot of people, have gone through similar struggles with the education system or a work life.
Mhm.
I live in a state where we're a right to work state. And so, I've been let go from a ton of jobs just based on the fact that I'm sick or in the hospital. And it's very
Wow.
hard to prove discrimination. We have a really hard time with our education system as well. There were so many times where teachers tried to fail me due to the fact that I was in the hospital or just couldn't be in class. And so, you know,
Wow.
I'm sure there are other people who
Yeah.
have, invisible disabilities that are going through the same thing that I just want to bring awareness to.
What gave you that fighting spirit though? When they were like, you're fired, and you're like, man, this feels unjust. What after it happened once or twice, what got you up? Because there are people who are going through transition in life now where they feel life is a little bit unfair. I'm about to be fired, I'm being let go, I'm losing something, and it's not my fault. And they are right, but it still happens. What got you up again after losing an opportunity unfairly?
I think a lot of it was I was told that I probably would never be able to be completely independent. I was never going to live on my own. I would probably never get married, like anything like that. And so you know, I wanted that in my life. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to, live on my own and do all the things that people were telling me that there was no way. And I didn't, want to be on disability. I didn't want to just, be a person who couldn't do something for themselves. I have always had and loved working. Like I've had a job since I was 14. I've been
Wow.
through a lot of jobs. I wanted to drive, and my parents were like, "Well, same rules apply for all the kids, but if you want to drive, you got to get a job. You got to be a
You
full."
gotta you gotta merit it, you gotta earn, I'm sorry James Jr. wasn't able to make it today. He had planned to be here, but he had unfortunately wasn't able to make it because of his scheduling. But as you're talking about young people and the messages you have for them, what other message would you pass on to other young people about the overcoming those trials, those tribulations, and situations?
I think the biggest thing is just not comparing yourself to where other people are at in life. I constantly compared myself to anybody and everybody, especially on social media, of like being able to, go to college and do these things. And I was always just, a little bit further behind, or they were getting married before me and having kids before me, and, all these things. And I wanted to be them. I wanted to be where they were at. And it wasn't until I started doing things that I wanted in my life that I was like, hey, maybe I actually don't want that in my life. Like, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that I got to do it. Like, I got to find my own way. I got to find my own voice, and I got to figure out what I want to do in life. Like, just because everybody else is doing it does not mean that it will make me happy, or it's something that I have to do anyways. So I think my biggest thing is just find yourself, try new things, put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because the biggest growth happens in discomfort.
You know what? There is the blessing of being put in front of a problem is that you find an answer. You find a way when it looks like there's no way. Resiliency develops in you, other skill sets, other strengths that can't be measured even in books. It has to come from within. And I think that's where real beauty comes from. It's never on the outside. It doesn't come from a Mac counter. It comes from an encounter you have within and an encounter with God. I believe that faith is not only having this belief that great things could happen, but also being so committed to it that you force things to happen because you don't just simply wait. You didn't simply go, I'm pretty, someone's going to discover me. I'm going to involve myself in something, a process. Learn disciplines of behavior because it was said recently to me, I just thought it was a fitting quote that it's great to be given a gift, but it's better to turn that gift into a skill because a skill can last. A skill is transferable. A skill can be enhanced, but you cannot do that with when things are just given to you.
Yes, I
Tell
agree.
me, tell me, how has it inspired other people? How going around and sharing your story, speaking, and all those things? How have you been able to impact society?
In a lot of ways, I get quite a bit of messages from people just saying, thank you so much for posting your story. Like, it's inspiring me to do the same thing, whether those people have ostomy bags or feeding tubes as well, or whether they don't have any chronic illnesses. And they're like, my little thing that I'm going through seems so little compared to what you're posting about and what you're doing. And it just makes me feel like, I shouldn't be complaining about this, or I, need to take a step back and just realize that other people may have it worse than me. And so I love getting those messages where people really feel inspired just to let me know that, like, hey, thank you so much, like, for inspiring me to be better and be myself.
What does that feel like for you when it comes to your purpose? When you hear from others how what your purpose was affected theirs.
I I feel good inside, but also I'm like, I don't need that validation that, like, what I'm doing is helping other people, like, as long as it's making me happy and what I'm posting. And if it does change one person's life, great. But like, I don't need to know that it changed your life, because it doesn't matter to me. Like, what you're doing in your life, like, great. If it changes your life or anything, like, yes, it's great hearing those stories and like getting feedback and stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just doing me. And I feel like that's the best I can do.
Well, I think here's a word of encouragement I want to give you. When it comes to um, the validation that would come from without, on the outside, rather than the confidence that comes from within of knowing that I'm living my purpose. The guiding line for me is this: our lives are meant to impact and touch others. So happiness is all perception, right? Because what looks like, you can look like people are happy. We looked at Amy Winehouse. She seemed extremely happy, top of the world, billionaire, and yet she took her life. So happiness can be a perception, but joy is what we're really looking for. You see, joy is deeper than a happiness, because happiness is a feeling that can be like a roller coaster, up and down. But joy is something on the inside where I say, I realize I am living my purpose. I was born for this. And the idea that if you support me or not, I'm still going to do it. Whether you believe in me or not, I'm still going to do it. But when I can use that joy and make it like embers of a fire trying to be put out, where it spreads and it ignites a fire in the will of someone else, that's phenomenal, because it duplicates my abilities, my passion, my purpose. There'll be some day when some young girl or some young man decides to do something different because of what your story did. That's that becomes a part of the legacy. That becomes a reward. Because no matter how talented, how gifted, how wonderful we are, there comes a day when we exit the stage and there's a new person that takes on a title, a role. But we never lose that, because whether we're reigning, defending, whatever it is, what we have is about paying it forward into the others' lives. What's next for you? What do you have set as a goal? What's the next thing you want to do?
So next thing, I guess I'm going to be in nationals in July in Chicago, competing for Petite USA. So I am doing just a ton of things just to get prepared for that, as I'm still just working. So that's really what's next for me.
Wow, so that's in July. You'll go and compete in nationals. Is
Yes.
it expensive to compete in this? I mean, you have sponsors. How do we go about supporting you if you need that?
Yes, I am looking for any type of sponsorship. It does get expensive, especially, traveling and the hotel and stuff like that. Outfits are kind of expensive too, but it's not about the price tag of how expensive your dress is. And that's not the winning factor. So, I really am taking into account, like, I work in a very nonprofit position where I don't make a lot of money. And so I'm buying outfits that, I can afford, whether that's top end or not. Like, what's going to shine on stage is me, not the outfit. And so I'm just really excited to be there and share my message and see what I can
All
do.
right, let's see what we can do. What can you share? How do we follow along? How do we support you?
Yeah,
Uh,
on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
okay. And what's those handles?
If you just type my name in Shaylee Ray, you'll definitely find me. Ray is spelled Raye. So
And with Master Chief, if you'll put that on the lower thirds, guys, I want you to know that one of the greatest things that we can do is inspire others through the hope that we carry within and share it on the outside. And she does that. If you have an opportunity, it's in your heart to do something impactful, take a moment and do so. Shaylee Ray is not just a symbol of beauty and excellence, but she's beautiful within, and it shows on the outside. The challenges that she's faced has made her a stronger, more impactful person with a message that can't be stopped. We not only support you, we wish you not only great things, but to bring home a national title so that you can share it with the rest of us. And that's why we need you guys to participate. So what you can in. Look her up. She's Shaylee Ray, the one and only. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an honor to have you on. God bless you so much.
thanks so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Absolute motivation, family. I got to tell you, one of the greatest things that I love about this is the fact that we get to touch so many different lives, talk to people, hearing where they are. That's why I want to encourage you to join me in Loretto, Tennessee. Tickets are barely any left. But what we got Larry Namer, the founder of E Entertainment Television. We have Chris Kaufman, the founder of StockX. We have Quentin Aaron, the star of Blindside. We have Dr. Walt Whitman of the Chicago Soul Children. This group not only is featured in Forbes magazine and a huge spread, but they opened up singing at the national anthem. They've sang live in front of 1.6 million people in Nigeria. They have traveled the world over. Their story is amazing, and to hear that, be surrounded by these people, we have some great speakers that will be there to surprise you. Mindset coach Dave Austin will be there. We have Mark Yezdik, who is one of the top hypnotists, comedian, funny guy, great guy. You will love what he does with our audience. We have Dylan Barry. Dylan Barry, who's over 70 billion downloads of his music. You've seen So You Think You Could Dance, America's Got Talent, all those things. That's Dylan Barry. His wife is one of the top Netflix documentary people. She does all those documentaries that you love, and she's going to be present as well. Perhaps you have a goal or dream of putting a show together to be known, to be seen. I want to be able to offer you those relationships and network. It all takes place at the Keystone Resort in Loretto, Tennessee. Tickets are only $200 because we wanted to make this not only affordable, but accessible. This will be an impactful time and day. What you have there is a five-star resort that is catering to you. We wanted to make it special, wanted to make it impactful. In fact, I want to go into a thing and just share some things with you guys that would just stay with you. I want to talk to you about purpose. I want to talk to you about on purpose. People have this idea that somehow you get famous, you get wealthy, you become something by simply sheer will. It's not. It's being able to share your will or bend your will. The idea that when you're around people, that you not look at what's in it for me, what can I get, but what can I do with those who are around me? How do I partner with someone instead of looking at it as a transaction? Can I get something out of someone? Can I become someone? Can I partner? Can I build a relationship? You see, what matters most is not that you just get something, it's that you become something. People want to watch the hero's journey in you and be a part of it. People will give to you because of who you are, not what you have. You can walk around and have the greatest invention and be like, look what I have. World's one and only this, that, and the other. You can have it and so be it, but you can only sell so many units on features and benefits. The truth is, it's what impact and who's behind it. Because if word got around that the person behind it was unlovable, had these hateful thoughts or behaviors, people would turn off from it no matter how good it is because of who it was. That's why we have to make sure that you work on those things that are within. I remember watching as a child when a space challenger went into the sky and blew up. And when that happened, I can remember the devastation of the classroom watching as some people died instantly, a school teacher, and astronauts. And the thought was, what a tragedy we just witnessed. Later, it came out the details of why that happened. They said that there was a mechanic working on the pre-launch, and he had a wrench. His wrench fell and hit one tile. The tile cracked and when the tile cracked, they didn't have enough time to fix it. So they thought one small crack in all the thousands of tiles that were heat resistant, broken, can't make that big of a difference. But here's what happened. The launch didn't have an issue. They got off the ground. But why it blew up is because heat, as it began to elevate, the heat found that one crack and worked itself in. That's what caused the explosion. You see, a crack in your foundation of character can limit you from going from one level to the next. You may be able to get it off the ground, but you'll never get to your destination if we don't fix what's broken. Most of the people that I've met that have been successful have been through hella trials. And so if you're going through it, understand that's normal. If you're having a bad day, having a bad week, having a bad year, That's part of the development. It's your character development season. Doesn't mean that you won't make it. It just means don't allow that to break you. I understand that there's a purpose and a season and a reason for everything that happens to you. And the seasoning that God's putting on you is so that everyone can develop an appetite and a taste for what's on the inside of you. But that can't happen if you don't fix the cracks in your character. Elevate from one level to the next by making sure you address things that others would one day use against you. You see, there's no shame in the fact that you make mistakes. The shame is if you never go back and fix them, address them, been broken, made bad choices, had bad character at one point, had anger issues, address it. Because when you face it, it must also face the potential that's within you. And if that could ever happen, understand that greatness can take place right then, right now. The elevation is still promised, it's still yours. But instead of blowing up, you glow up. People can watch that light and have a trail to follow. So, to everyone that wants to be a trailblazer, you need to be around other trailblazers. You need to be around people who made it, billionaires, millionaires, get in proximity. They're not out of reach if you can come to a place and meet them. I'm putting you in proximity so that you can go to your destiny. Whatever it is that God has for you, you must make it. I've been able to be fortunate enough to be blessed with some things, but if you put me in a room, I will make the most of that room. That's what you must do. Any room that you walk into, use it as a platform for you to inform them of what's in you. I'm not talking about self promotion, I'm talking about connections. Go in and connect with people, let them see who you are, and the authentic characters draw people together. I was recently brought in for Veterans Day to speak at General Motors, and I want to thank you, General Motors, for bringing me in. Not only was it an honor, it was a privilege. They brought me in because I worked at General Motors on the assembly line, and now we were speaking to veterans who have been on the front lines. And as I was there and we were speaking, I spoke from my heart. Medal of Honor recipients were there. It's the highest honor in America. For you to have saved lives, to have risked your own for multiple lives, it is rarely given. In all of human history, American history, since 1863, only 3,536 people have ever been qualified to receive the Medal of Honor. You see, the Medal of Honor Foundation even has its own holiday, March 25th. And most people didn't even know that they have their own holiday that we all celebrate those who have been the most heroic, most honored in all of our nation's history. When I was there with them, it began to dawn on me how little I knew about them. But I shared my heart and I encouraged them. I shared my passion. When I was done, they said, James, we would like to talk to you about joining. And so I became a nominee for the honor of having the Medal of Honor. Tell about humbled. You see, if I had never stepped into the room, if I had never quit my job, gone after my purpose, spoken with purpose and passion, I never would have gotten the invitation. And when I accepted an invitation, it was to another place with a small room, but I spoke with the same passion if it's thousands. When I was done speaking there, it opened the door for another person to bring me into another room. And as I poured my heart out there, another gift opened up another door to open up another opportunity. And I can look around life and say, look at all the splendid, wonderful things that have happened because I took a chance and bet on me and openly admitted, here's where I fell short, but I'm about to stand tall. Same thing happens with you. Find your purpose, connect with it, speak with purpose and passion, be honorable. And what will happen is honor comes to you. And that way, when they go back and they do the background checks and they look over you, you are not looked over because of something you didn't speak up about. Gifts can put you in a room, talents can put you there, but a skill is one thing that you must develop. You got to sharpen it. Some of you have wanted to develop a YouTube channel. You want to develop how do you do what you're looking at? How do you get that? Well, Icon Industries is working on something very unique, a package just for you. I'm talking about giving you the iconic, passionate play of how to do, how to grow, how do you reach millions? How do you have something so big that everyone else wants to join it? You need to go ahead and find out. I want to be able to give you the tools. Instead of you watching and wondering, I want you to have direct access. So make sure you reach out to Icon. Say, listen, I want the iconic package. I want to become a household name with my passion and purpose so I can touch lives and change them around the world. I'm called to the nation. I'm called to the world to change things. I cannot remain the same. You may have been born one way, but you don't have to go out that way. You were born the child of your parents, but you become the child of your decisions and choices. You got to make the right choices. Invest in you. You got one life. And in this life, you can touch other lives, but you got to become authentic. The authentic you must come forth. And along the way, you'll find that there are people who cannot stay the course with you. The crowd around you may change. Championship team that Michael Jordan won with in 1995 is not the same team that returned in 96. Nor was it the same team on all six championships. None of the same players, the core was. But some of the community people, some of the additions altered every year. Why? Because you cannot remain the same. In order to become excellent, you must be willing to make adjustments. Instead of just doing what everyone else has done, find out from those who've done it and learn to do it yourself. Learn from experts, learn from them, be mentored by them, invest in you. Because when you invest, the return on investment stays in you. Because once you have that knowledge, it's a skill, one that you can teach to others. Most people don't realize that in any other setting, seems like an education. You go to school, you get a degree. You go on to get your master's, get your doctorate. In order to do what? To be compensated for your experience, for your knowledge. Well, the same thing happens in every other life. It just doesn't have to be as delayed. The cost of your education can be as much as 86,000 a year. Or maybe it's 12,000 a year. Whatever it is, at whatever level that you're going at it, new levels, new devils, new challenges, and this is what ends up happening. You go ahead and invest in you and watch the return come back even 2, 3, 4 fold. If you're a speaker, you say, man, I want to become something. I want to be able to speak to states and nations, companies, corporations. You have to develop relationships and a network. That's what changes your net worth. You can't just come out and say, listen, I want to be able to be a keynote speaker. I want to make $5,000, 25,000. I want 200,000 a speech. Well, listen, you can want all you want, but do you have the ability to make others grow and develop? Do you have the ability to invest in yourself so that others see that you're worth investing in? It's time for you to develop that. I want to see you reach your potential. In Loretto, Tennessee, I'm putting together a group of people that will be informative, will be impactful, will be wonderful. But wait till you see what's coming in 2025. Man, I mean, I don't even want to get that far. Let me just go ahead and tell you what's coming even this week. On this week, we'll be in Salt Lake City. I'll be speaking at Mac's Place, that wonderful place. Millionaires, billionaires come together, exclusive audience on the 20th. On the 21st, we'll be filming A Year of Transformation with Jeff Hayes Films. You're going to see some amazing things for the top 60 life coaches, speakers, and coaches, mindset coaches, for educators around the world are working together to put a year together of coaching for everyone, with each of us taking a week throughout the course of a year with bonuses as well. And then we got something different for you. On the 22nd of November, just in a few days, 2,500 tickets have already been sold to the Echoes Theater. Nate Bargazzi, the comedian, will be joining me on stage as I'll be speaking and hosting for the Warriors Rising, which is for veterans. We help them become entrepreneurs, help them become better, help them do more. Then immediately I'll fly overnight and arrive there in Loretto, Tennessee for the symposium that will be impactful for your life. You see, I left a job at General Motors April of 23, became one of the top speakers in the world within a year. We've grown so much, so large, that I'm no longer talking about jobs. I'm talking about nations. I've been able to sit with world leaders, whether it be the First Lady of Sierra Leone or the President of the US, or appointed to positions and roles, honored with gifts and abilities and places and times, relationships, all because I pour myself into my gift and calling, and then the calling gets answered by more than me, but everyone that understands there's a ringtone that comes out of everyone of purpose. And when you hear it, you know it. In other words, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. When the Lord said that, he said, man, when I put a call on you, those who understand the call, the gift that's in you will follow and come. And I'm telling you, it's your time. Hear the call for you to be more, do more, become more, so you can serve more. Yeah? You can remain the same and wonder, maybe next year, maybe next month, maybe never. Les Brown has famously said, it is a shame that most people will be haunted by the ghost of what would have been at their deathbed. Surrounded instead of by loved ones, you're surrounded by the talents that are angry. It's not fair that we have to die with you. I never got utilized. I never got to reach my potential. It's not fair that you were supposed to become this person and you withheld. You held back out of fear. What would they say? What would they do? What would others have failed? Because others failed doesn't mean you will. You're different. You're made of more. You want to become more. You have to be around more. Stay tuned. Stay connected. Stay vibrant. Motivation that moves you. This is James Dixon. I'm out from Absolute Motivation. God bless. I'll see you soon.
Say hi to James. Made me an entrepreneur. Teaching me day after day after day till it all was a blur. Now he on tour, he could drop in your city tonight. Never the Zen coming in for the fight. Making that powerful statement, saying that you meant for greatness.